Luxembourg needs to be conscious that we are complementary to traditional banks. Traditional banks are still very strong in certain areas that we don't service, but I think the areas we service, we are definitely much stronger.
Today, I have the pleasure to welcome in the studio Arnaud Penson, who is Country Manager Luxembourg for Ebury. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jérôme, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. We will talk about bank account opening. We've been talking a lot over the past 9 months together about all this mess, so I decided to invite you here. And maybe can you start presenting Ebury in a few words?
Sure. So Ebury is a fintech. We have UK origins, but we're now based globally, right? So we grew from a small team in 2009 to now a very large organization, almost of 1,800 people, spread across 40 offices globally. And since 2019, we have a majority shareholder, which is Banco Santander, which is actually a traditional bank. So I think that kind of sets us apart from the other fintech players here in Luxembourg.
So it's a Spanish main shareholder.
Exactly, right? So they entered in 2019, helped us develop internationally, and it fits within the company DNA because our motto of the company is actually what borders, and so it actually demonstrates precisely what we want to do here in Luxembourg, and that is provide global treasury solutions for corporate and institutional clients that operate cross-border. We offer cash accounts in Luxembourg, as you pointed out, but we also do foreign exchange, for example, fund financing, global cash management. And we do that in Luxembourg, but we do that also in other fund jurisdictions like Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai.
So let's go back maybe one step here. If I'm just a start-upper in Luxembourg, I'm having mostly clients in Luxembourg. Can I open an account with you?
Sure. We actually accept everyone who is a corporate or institutional client. We don't work with retail or private individuals, but we work with corporates and institutional clients in Luxembourg. So whoever needs a bank account in Luxembourg as a corporate structure or a fund can actually reach out to us to open a cash account.
Okay, so there's no barrier of entry. What is the cost of an account at Ebury?
So we are looking at either 2,500 for a corporate per year or 3,500 for an institutional client, so a fund. That usually covers pretty much all of the cost structure of the account.
Yeah, I like that. I've always been advocating for more transparency on cost. We know that there is a regulatory issue and there's a profitability issue, especially for traditional banks. So at least here, you know where you are. You contact him, you open your account. It's going to cost you more or less 200 euro per month, and you are up and running. You can do your company immediately. If we look at the Luxembourg market, so why are you here in Luxembourg?
I think, we kind of found this glitch in the matrix here in Luxembourg, right? It's pretty rare and unique to have a market that is so vibrant from a financial perspective, but where it's so hard to actually open cash accounts. So that's how we ended up in Luxembourg. And you've been very vocal on the bank account side of the story. I think it's something we've been doing now over the last couple of years, and we've seen tremendous demand for it, especially in Luxembourg. Obviously Luxembourg is one side of the equation. We try and really differentiate ourselves as well by being present globally, having footprints across all these different financial centers across the globe.
Yeah, and there was one case in particular that we heard about a few weeks ago. We were in touch for that. It was Emma.
Yes.
Emma is a very, very successful startup. I think they've reached more or less 30 million annual recurring revenue in 2 years. It's never heard of in Luxembourg. And we all know that traditional banks shut down the account of the company. I think they were in the process of doing the KYC with you and things were going well. They opted for another digital provider. Just tell me, why would a traditional bank kick out such a company when you guys would onboard it? Where is the issue? Where is the matrix?
I think, for traditional banks, the issue might be that the cost to service such a client, especially from the compliance side, can be quite high. Now, where is the difference with us is obviously on the compliance side of things, we have really integrated compliance within our digital infrastructure, making the cost of compliance much lower than the traditional mainstream banks. So that actually allows us to be a lot more competitive, a lot more open, understand complex structures better. And it's why actually, we were looking at the case you just mentioned, because that fits into our offering.
Yeah, and what really pisses me off, I can say that Emma does not have a problem to have bank accounts. They have opened one here, they have one in Switzerland, they now have one in France. Luxembourg seems to be the only country where it's impossible to open a bank account in a traditional bank, because going to digital banks, they have options and they are accepted there. So how are your clients' needs evolving? I understand there's two main ones, a traditional company like mine, and funds, which represent a huge number of potential clients in Luxembourg.
Exactly. And I think our clients, as well as just broadly the financial world, they have been more and more reliant on digitalization. They don't go to a physical counter of the bank anymore. They need to have instant access, global interconnectivity. I think those are really things we've seen changing a lot in the last few years. And as you mentioned, they're also more and more open now to work with non-banks to provide bank-like services.
Yes.
I think that comes also from our personal life, where we actually work a lot more now with non-banks. Revolut, Wise, those are examples of non-banks that we use in the day-to-day life, and which obviously allow us to also gain some ground there on the corporate side. So that, I think, is one thing. Obviously, keeping in mind this changing world, especially on the macroeconomic situations, we try to focus on security, fraud prevention, and just being that partner that understands complex structures. Being present all over the world provides us this kind of bird-eye view, which allows us to be really sensitive and sensible to local requirements, and that allows us to provide real value to clients. Like instant transactions, customer approval workflows, complex foreign exchange hedging structures. So those are all examples of what we can do for institutional clients, for example.
Yeah, and I really see a shift here, because if I look at my company, we've been in business 25 years. I have several bank accounts in several banks, and for me, my bank, it's where I put the money, basically. It's where I ask for a loan if I ever need one. That's about it. I have a feeling you are more going along the full value chain of treasury. You talk about FX, you talk about maybe transactional finance, which maybe is not a specialty here.
No, exactly. And I think clients overall have just used us more because we offer all these services, but we offer them also quite instantly. So processes with us are very short. It poses some challenges, obviously, from a compliance and an operational point of view to be so quick. But we've always built out our products and capabilities keeping just one mission in mind, and that is actually provide efficiency throughout the life cycle of a client and touching all these different products that they might want to have access to.
Okay, so if I understand you properly, I think you don't have the legacy of decades and decades of very slow IT systems, very long procedures, contracts of 50 pages where you have to sign each page with your hand. You're basically a digital native, even though you're backed by a traditional bank. And of course, this gives you a different culture, which seems to be more in sync with the entrepreneurial culture today.
That's exactly right. And I think, you touched upon the fact that we, as a company, are indeed digitally native. I think looking back at my time at traditional banks, I had to log into 5 different systems just to find one piece of information. This is completely outdated in today's world.
And you needed to attend 5 meetings to get the authorization to onboard a client, whereas now AI does 90% of the job. Some guy somewhere gets a notification, does 1 click, and you onboard your client.
That's right.
Perfect. So where do you see basically the future going for your company and for Luxembourg?
So I think for the company, as I said, we have a pretty solid now international footprint, right? We're present on every continent, so it's a pretty strong offering internationally. To us, I think, we've already kind of partially solved the cash account problem in Luxembourg. It's just a matter now of being present locally as much as possible, show our face. This is obviously part of that strategy. I know for us, the future, I think, of growth lies more into demonstrating to clients in Luxembourg that we are much more than just cash accounts. As you said, we do much more products, services, cash management, currencies. We do so much different things, and I think we want to kind of demonstrate to the market here, but also more globally speaking, that we are much more than just a cash account provider. And I think the future lies, as I said, in kind of global financial interconnectivity and integrated treasury products. And we want to be at the forefront of that. It's really in our DNA.
Yeah, I can relate to this in my own company, where 20 years ago it was about the website. People invested years and a huge amount of money in building a website. Nowadays, the website is just a box, just like for you, the bank account is just a commodity. What the magic happens after. In my case, right, generating content and distribution. In your case, growing with your client and advising him or helping him at every stage of his growth.
Yes.
Maybe a word about Luxembourg. How do you see Luxembourg becoming again a leading financial center, even for the real economy?
Yeah, I think, as a fintech company, I would say that the hurdles we're facing today are obviously that we don't have access today to the full scope of the market due to regulatory reasons. I think, Luxembourg needs to be conscious that we are complementary to traditional banks. Traditional banks are still very strong in certain areas that we don't service, but I think the areas we service, we are definitely much stronger. And so opening up those areas that banks do not find lucrative, take into in consideration the cash accounts problems. Opening that up to us fully would be a good step towards full integration of digital and mainstream banks within the Luxembourgish market.
Yeah, and surely you will benefit a lot from the Revolut incident. And we know they've been knocking at the door of Luxembourg in 2017-18. If you look at the press at the time, it was just a disaster. We were slamming them, kicking them out, and we wake up 7 years later, and they're one of the most valuable fintech in the world. So I'm pretty sure now, with this in mind, you will have more receptivity from ministers, maybe regulators, and also supervisors. So thank you very much, and I wish Ebury a nice growth in Luxembourg.
Thank you, Jérôme.